He broke 6,000 guitars, never drew a dime.
Hello there and welcome to the first ever episode of Never Drew a Dime. It's a new show that I'm going to be hosting with my good friend Tomo Clarkson. What we're going to be doing is diving into the world of, pretty generally speaking, terrible WWE Studios movies. We're going to be examining action movies, comedies, thrillers, whatever genre the world of wrestling and cinema wants to throw at us. We're here to tackle it. Tomo, how are you doing there?
I've been better. I did watch this film just mere moment ago. Finished it and then straight on to recording.
Yeah.
And I feel like I haven't been able to fully process what can only be described as horror.
It's fresh on the mind. I think it's good that we watched it and then went straight into recording because this was a very forgettable movie. So
yes,
it's gonna keep it.
It also feels a bit like have you ever been in therapy? You don't want to sort of sit on anything. You want to sort of get it out, speak about it, talk about it, and that's certainly what I want to do with this film.
Exactly.
This film we watched today.
We've got to process it, and then we've got to move on from our grief. That's the main thing.
You've got to do your 3 steps.
Exactly. So, just in sort of general terms, what we're going to be doing is watching a WWE Studios, or maybe not. There are some other bad wrestling movies. I know there's a one that had a bunch of TNA wrestlers in it. That was like Wrestlers vs Zombies or something. So we'll get to that as well. We're just going to be really.
That sounds like an anniversary special. That one.
that sounds like a real howler. We're basically just going for the trash. So there are obviously wrestlers who are competent actors. The Rock, Batista. They're in mainstream movies, Marvel films. We're not interested in any of that. What we're instead
don't want to hear about them.
No. We're looking at the low budget, the bottom shelf, what can encapsulate that better than our first episode, which is going to be on The Chaperone, the 2011 movie starring Triple H. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect going into this. I didn't know very much about the premise of it other than the title. And, oh boy, it was...
It underseeded all my expectations.
Yes, it was a miserable experience. It was a very, very bad movie. But I think a fitting start to the show, okay, because it can only get better from here on out, is what I think. So,
well, I did see a couple trailers for other WWE productions before this film, so don't count the chickens before they've suplexed you, John.
Very true, very true. So me and Tomo both had to track this down and buy it on DVD because, believe it or not, Netflix were not interested in hosting this movie, and no one out there on the internet was willing to risk the jail time for piracy over hosting The Chaperone illegally. So much to my chagrin, I did actually have to pay, I think, about £2 to purchase this movie.
Imagine ending up in federal jail and the crime you've been sent to the slammer for is pirating Triple H's vehicle, the Chaperone.
Yeah, for real. I honestly think that me and you buying this might be the first time that anyone's bought a copy of this movie in years. I refuse to believe that anyone else is even thinking about this movie at all because it came out 10 years ago now.
Well, I bought it along. It's like a three movie collection. And it actually came with a handwritten... I didn't tell you this until now. I thought I'd keep it for the show. It actually came with a handwritten note thanking me for purchasing it.
Really?
Yeah.
What? It's a cursed item. The previous owner was glad to have sort of exonerated themselves from it.
Well, I worry, yes, but it did come with a handwritten note thanking me. I purchased a lot of things off Amazon, and never once have I had a thank you note handed with the actual product, which was an ominous start to the proceedings.
Which other movies did you get in with the bundle?
Just pulling it up. It came with Legendary, starring John Cena.
I've never heard of that.
Literally have never heard of that film. And Knucklehead, the classic Big Show movie. Yeah. Which was on a trailer before this movie and looked even worse. So I can't wait to dissect that one on a later date.
Yeah. Just before we even get into the movie, The Chaperone itself, the actual experience of watching this, So the DVD has an unskippable trailer for Knucklehead starring The Big Show, followed then by an unskippable trailer for a WWE like documentary DVD about The Big Show's career. Like, there is nothing you can do to make me less interested in The Big Show and like make me view him as like less of a legend, really, than showing me a trailer for Knucklehead followed by, and now look at this epic DVD about the Big Show's life. It's like, no, I know what the Big Show's up to. You've shown me the Knucklehead bit. Like, I don't want any more of this. You're not going to convince me to like spend my time paying attention to this man.
And then they followed it up with another. I don't know if you had it as well, a trailer for TLC 2010, which is a strange pay-per-view to be choosing, but I just noticed it had a tagline saying, "In this pay-per-view, new superstars become legends," and the two superstars that became legends they chose to highlight was Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio.
Oh, of course, two Hall of Famers right there. Well, I mean, Dolph Ziggler probably will get him one day. Del Rio probably not.
Something tells me neither of them are headlining their class.
No, probably not. It'll be a dark day in history if Dolph Ziggler is the Hall of Fame headliner. So just to give a bit of context for the time where this came out, this was in 2011, was when The Chaperone was released. I believe my impression up until this point in time had largely been that WWE Studios were like sort of action-packed movies. Like, you know, John Cena, Randy Orton, you know, Kane, maybe like horror ones, stuff like that. You know, big muscled up men fighting, stuff blowing up and everything. This seemed to be going down a slightly new route. Obviously, you've got Triple H, who in this movie is, you know, very big, very jacked up. But it's also sort of trying to be a bit of a comedy, I guess, because of the premise of it, that he's a chaperone for a high school field trip. So I remember around the time this came out, it got mentioned on WWE TV in a promo from CM Punk. I don't know if you recall this, but he used this movie as a way to make fun of Triple H on television, essentially, for having a straight-to-DVD release.
For understandable reasons. Well, do you want to quickly give a little mention of who the leading man is?
Oh, sure, of course. Well, Triple H, you know, if you're a wrestling fan, that's going to be a name that's very familiar to you. Triple H has been a big figure in WWE since the sort of mid-90s. I've never been a huge fan of him, personally. I think when I was a kid, I sort of enjoyed some of the D-Generation X stuff to an extent. But as an adult, like with many other adult wrestling fans, Triple H is sort of a much maligned figure for me.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of look back on a lot of his in-ring career and the sort of influence he had over his own storylines and everything like that, and you realise he was not really a good thing for WWE for a lot of his tenure. Like, he was sort of in it for himself. There were a lot of legitimate stars that could have been created, people like Booker T, Rob Van Dam, you know, people
Booker T WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
One of the most infamous things I think WWE's ever done, where they basically had a storyline which was bordering on race baiting, and then had Triple H win quite easily at the end.
Yeah, it was something like 19 seconds in between Triple H giving Booker T the pedigree and then pinning him to win at WrestleMania. So
it was a big old squash.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a huge Triple H fan.
He's building his reputation back up. He's got NXT, which is the only watchable product WWE makes today.
Yeah, in recent years he's sort of become a bit more accepted, I think, by like sort of hardcore wrestling fans through NXT, just because of the talent he brings in. He makes a big to-do of getting a picture with them backstage whenever they debut or whenever they win a championship.
And he's always pointing at their chest.
Exactly, yeah. And you have this sort of idea that a lot of really popular people like Finn Balor, like, people who've come up through that NXT system have been sort of Triple H's boys. So he has a certain level of respect behind the scenes in that regard. And I don't doubt that he's got a good eye for talent and he's a pretty decent scout. In terms of Triple H as an in-ring guy, I've never been sold on him too much. I can't really think of a load of great Triple H matches, you know, and I've seen a lot of wrestling.
I can't think. I mean, I don't know if anyone in the comments or anything could mention one, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a single sort of 5-star classic Triple H match. Maybe the Undertaker matches at WrestleMania. They were pretty good. The Hell in a Cell one, especially, that was that's when the Undertaker should have retired. I think a lot of people would agree to that statement that Undertaker should have walked out with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Apart from his clinic he put on at Super SmackDown or whatever the Saudi Arabian one was.
Of course, where Shawn Michaels came out retired. Oh God, I don't even want to think about that. Yeah, Triple H. I mean, I remember he's had decent matches. I remember the WrestleMania 20 main event with Benoit and Michaels. That was a good match. I'm sure.
Hardcore match of Mick Foley at one of the Rumbles, I think it was. The Cactus Jack return. That was pretty.
Yeah. Back in the sort of Attitude Era, he had some decent stuff. But overall, considering how long he was on top, there's nowhere near the sort of resume of big matches that you would think of, like for other stars, like even like John Cena, who's not lauded as being a good wrestler, but I could rattle off a bunch of sort of 5-star John Cena matches that I've really enjoyed. I can't do the same for Triple H, which is interesting because he's, by pretty much anyone's standards, a better in-ring wrestler than John Cena. But in terms of classic matches, never did it for me. And also because of the behind-the-scenes, what I'm basically getting to is that my opinion of Triple H is not like, he's never been a favourite of mine. So I was not endeared towards liking this movie when I came into it. And I think even if I had been sort of biased towards liking Triple H when I came into this movie, I still don't think that could have saved it.
It's not like if a sort of legendary popular wrestler like No Way Jose was doing a movie.
Yeah, a legend like No Way Jose, you're right, or Adam Rose. One of the all-time classics.
Although Triple H would be great for a Firefly Funhouse match.
That would be amazing. I would legitimately want to see that very much. Triple H, Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse, book it.
Vince, if you're watching, hit us up. Happy to book that match for you.
That's the long-term goal here, is we neg our way into getting jobs on WWE Creative, right? We criticise their movies enough where they think, well, if these guys are so smart, why don't they try it? And then we do, and then we book Triple H to lose the Bray Wyatt, and it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, this is the sort of long-term storytelling that wrestling fans are crying out for.
Yeah, so I think with that out of the way, let's get into the Chaperone. This movie opens in a prison, and we see Triple H's character, who's called Ray, or Ray, which comes up an annoying amount. The difference between whether he's just called Ray or Ray for some reason is quite a large plot point in this movie.
Good luck, Ray.
Thanks, man. You know what? It's a whole new world for me. From now on, it's just Ray. Just plain Ray.
Yeah, it's they really think they're doing like a sort of Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing. Is he Ray? Is he Ray? Is Ray the bad guy? Is Ray the good guy? And it doesn't really. It's just annoying more than anything, because every bad guy calls him Ray, and they have to have this exact same conversation about 18 times in the film where they go, "Hey Ray," and he goes, "It's just plain Ray."
It's Ray. Plain Ray.
What happened to the other Ray?
You sometimes get quite cool nicknames for like criminals, you know, like Ray is not one of them.
No,
Ray fucking sucks. It sounds like a dog's name.
Ray Bradstone sounds like an enhancement talent that would be like fed as a jobber.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Vladimir Kozlov beat Ray Bradstone in 2006 on SmackDown one week. The striking thing about Triple H in this movie at the beginning, just besides his name, is also his beard, which looks fake, right? This is not a real beard, I didn't think.
No.
It looks terrible. And Triple H, like, at times in his career, has sported a beard, and it's looked, like, fine. It's looked okay. For some reason...
beard now he's got, the beard he sort of rocks now, which is like he's shaved his head, and he's now just got this big grey beard. I'd say he pulls it off.
He pulls off a better beard than I do. You know, I'm a man who likes having a bit of facial hair, but I can't grow out as nice of an organic beard as Triple H, which makes it all the more baffling that in this movie at the beginning, when it's like, oh yeah, I've been in prison for so long, he's got this goofy, horrible-looking fake beard.
But John, if you want him to grow out a beard, that's going to take at least 3 months. And I guarantee there wasn't 3 months spent filming or producing this film.
Almost definitely not. Definitely not 3 months writing it. I guarantee you that.
No.
So we start with Triple H in prison. He's on the phone to Dr. Marjorie, and this is going to be sort of a recurring premise during the movie. Dr. Marjorie is sort of a self-help radio talk show that Triple H has developed sort of an affinity for whilst he's in prison, and he's also read this book by Dr. Marjorie, and that's been very helpful to Triple H in his sort of healing process as a person in terms of becoming a better guy. So he's in prison on the phone with Dr. Marjorie. One of the inmates is behind him taunting him, and Triple H hits him with the phone.
So it hasn't changed that much.
No, I mean, still just being violent for no real reason. It doesn't show much growth. Triple H gets released from prison. He's been in there for 7 years. At this stage, we don't know what he was in prison for, right? But he gets let out, he walks out, and some guy called LaRue pulls up in a car. And the guy clearly knows Triple H from before he went into prison and is trying to coax him in, trying to be buddy-buddy with him. Triple H is having none of it. And it was a really, really stupid scene, I thought. I think it was supposed to be funny, but they're trying to establish...
This is one of many what will generously be called jokes in this film.
Right.
Which seem to... They have such a long build-up, then no real payoff, and then they hold on the sort of not payoff for so much longer than is necessary.
Yeah. So this LaRue guy is trying to get in Triple H's good books. Triple H says, hey, I've been in prison 7 years. I really just want to drive a car again. And LaRue's like, fine, you do it. Gets out the car. Triple H gets in the driver's seat. LaRue goes around to get in the passenger. Triple H locks the door and drives away and steals this man's car. And this was right after a scene where he was in prison talking to a prison guard going, no, I'm a changed man. Dr. Marjorie's really helped me out. I'm a different guy now. Within 2 minutes of getting out of prison, commits a crime.
In front of the jail. Like, he hasn't got the bus anywhere. He's completely... The guard has walked him to the gate and has watched Triple H steal a man's car.
Yeah, instantly. And he steals it from a criminal, but again, I think like it's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be a joke, but it's just like, you haven't changed. Like, that's a crime. Like, you can go back to jail for that right away, you fucking moron. So, whatever. Yeah,
but this film does seem to very much operate on the idea of if you commit a crime to a criminal, it's not a real crime.
Exactly. Yes. We cut to the next scene. Triple H, thank fuck, he sorts out his beard. Okay, cuts it straight away once he gets out of prison. And he decides that he's going to go see his wife and his kid. And Triple H pulls up outside their house sort of the following day, and he's walking up, building himself up, repeating his mantra whilst he's going to their doorstep. And he says to himself, I am the inventor of my future, which is one of these taglines he's got from Dr. Marjorie. Again, I think it's supposed to be funny. It's not.
I'm the inventor of my future. I'm the inventor of my future.
Yeah, it seems like the joke is that Triple H wants to improve himself, but he's using like a self-help guide to improve himself, and to someone, let's call him Vince McMahon, that would come across as like an amusing concept that someone's got to like ask for help.
Yeah, it's like, it's not funny. It's like, he was in prison 7 years and he rebuilt himself, and this Dr. Marjorie thing, although it's a bit corny or whatever, has genuinely given him some direction and some purpose in his life to move on. But it's supposed to be just hilarious that big bulky Triple H is repeating these little mantras to himself. It's meant to be a really funny bit, but it's just not. It's
not like Dr. Marjorie ever pays off at the end of the film. Like, it's just like, she's not like that she's a con artist and that's funny, or it's just she does help people. But getting help apparently is a joke.
In any case, Triple H goes to his wife's house. She calls him Ray, and Triple H corrects her and says, no, it's just Ray. Again, which is not a funny bit.
No, just plain Ray.
Just plain Ray.
Just plain Ray.
Right, okay, good to know.
It's just Ray. Plain Ray.
Triple H's daughter then turns up. She's called Sally, and Triple H attempts to sort of reconcile with her, and she's having none of it. She just sort of starts crying and runs off inside. And Triple H had brought sort of a teddy bear and some flowers as a present for his wife and for his daughter, and he just leaves them on the doorstep and sort of walks away.
Littering's also a crime.
Well, speaking of crimes, I mean, this is a great example. So it's this sort of scene where Triple H was really excited to get out, see his family again, reconnect with them. His wife is cold to him. His daughter wants nothing to do with him. And Triple H's response to this is the next day, in his stolen car, he stalks his daughter to school. So he follows his daughter to school and like walks up and confronts her. And it's like, I was watching this and just being like, this must be like traumatizing. Like,
yeah,
if you're
Put yourself in the shoes of the daughter. Your ex-con father's been away 7 years, suddenly appears. You politely sort of, you don't scream at him or tell him to F off. You just sort of, you don't want anything to do with him. And they're not just outside the school. He fully walks, he follows her, trying to talk to her, into school property.
Yeah, no. He fully goes into the grounds of the school. And again, like you said, it's been 7 years. So when, like, she's in, like, what, high school? She must be, like, what, she's meant to be, like, 13 or something, tops, in this movie, I guess. I don't even know. In that sort of age range. So she would have been quite a young child when he went in prison. She's not going to have very good memories of him at all. And then all of a sudden he's turning up following her into school. It's very, very scary.
It is. You could read a whole different movie into this movie.
100%. Yeah.
If you're careful editing, you could make this into like a everyone talking about Kevin sort of movie.
Everyone's talking about Kevin. Do you mean we need to talk about Kevin?
That's the one.
Everyone's talking about Kevin.
Close enough.
Close enough. So there's two kids having a fight at this school, and Triple H, for some reason, thinks that it's his place to get involved and break this up. So these two kids are scrapping. He goes in and grabs them both by the hair and, like, yanks them apart.
But I thought that was pretty poor because clearly they just started the match. You know, they were doing a bit of chain wrestling. One kid applied a nice headlock. You know, and Triple H just interrupts the match.
I hate these interference spots. You know, this was the big match between generic high schooler A and generic high schooler B, and Triple H is getting himself involved. He's just got to have all the fucking attention on him all the time.
Classic Triple H burying the up-and-coming stars.
For real. But it's like, again, like, think of this in real life terms. Someone's ex-con dad turns up at school and grabs two random kids by the hair and starts like attacking them. It's like, no, you can't do that. That's not allowed. Like,
so we've had stealing a car.
Yeah.
We've had littering. We've got trespassing on school property.
I would say
assaulting minors.
Stalking his daughter, I would say, as well.
Stalking. I'd say that's another crime. So we're about 15 minutes into the film, maximum. We've already committed 5 crimes, none of which he will get punished for, by the way.
No. For some reason, this man invading the school and grabbing 2 children by the hair impresses a teacher called Miss Miller, who has a really, really annoying voice. I can't state this enough. Her voice is like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's just very squeaky and horrible.
It's really not a fun thing to listen to.
No, definitely not.
Oh, how do you do? I'm Miss Miller.
I hope that the actress is putting it on. Like, she's purposely hamming up how annoying her voice is, because otherwise that would be really annoying to have that voice.
It was very unpleasant. But Miss Miller lets Triple H know that there's going to be a field trip to the New Orleans Museum of Art, and they don't have enough chaperones for the trip. You can see where this is going. And Triple H is like, oh, great, yeah, I'll do that. And his daughter makes it perfectly clear. She says to Triple H, if you go on this trip, I will not go. Like, we're not doing this together. I want to go on this trip, but if you turn up, I'm not going. So please don't come on this trip with me. She wants no part of it.
Again, a very reasonable and polite request to Triple H.
100%.
Just please, Dad, you just got out of jail. Please don't accost me and my kids at school, me and my friends at school, and go on a school trip. And Triple H is saying, I get what you're saying. Sign me up. I'll be there.
So we move on from that scene at the school to Triple H at his apartment, which is a bit of a dump. LaRue turns up. This is the guy Triple H stole the car from in the first scene. And he reveals that the reason Triple H went to prison was because Triple H was a getaway driver for LaRue who was committing a robbery. And what had happened is LaRue had tripped a silent alarm and then had, instead of going back out and letting Triple H know that and trying to get away together, he had dipped out by himself through the back door and Triple H had taken the fall for him and had gone down. So that's the sort of context of why Triple H went to prison. So he didn't, like, you know, it's not a terrible crime, I guess. He was just being a getaway driver. I mean, it's also not good, but, you know, there are much worse things you could do, I suppose. So you can sort of see him in a sort of slightly redeeming light, you know, on the basis of this.
LaRue at this scene also clarifies exactly what Triple H's job description was. And I wrote this down. He said, "Man, you were the best driver getaway man I ever met.
Oh my god, yeah.
So he's not just a driver. He's not just a getaway driver. He's a best driver getaway man. One would venture LaRue had got his lines mixed up slightly, and the filmmaker said, "Good enough, let's do the next scene."
This can't be the digs of the best driver getaway man in the business.
Obviously, Triple H was a terrific getaway driver man, or whatever he was, because LaRue is really insistent that he links back up with him and they get going and get some schemes going again. Triple H is having none of it, and he threatens LaRue, and this was hilarious. He grabs LaRue and bunches him up like against a wall, right, and swings a punch, and could easily punch LaRue if he wants, but instead chooses to like punch through his own wall in his apartment and just smashes his fist through the drywall and goes, 7 years, I lost my wife, I lost my kid. It's like, yeah, if you wanted to like make an impactful statement, punch LaRue, don't punch your fucking wall, you div.
Well, you know, when you've been reading Dr. Marjorie's book, you develop new habits.
So we move on to the next scene, and we see that Triple H's ex-wife, who's called Lynn, now has a new partner, who's a bold man called Marvin, who's a doctor. And Marvin's character is basically just generic, annoying stepdad who is up his own arse about the fact that he's a doctor. And just seems like a bit of a prick, really. I don't have too much to say about Marvin. I don't know if you've got anything.
No, but it did sort of have a slight sort of... This guy does seem to love his wife, or girlfriend, I think it is, and he does love his daughter, and the stepdaughter does seem to like Marvin. I think there's one line where she like pays a compliment to Marvin. But yeah, he's just a completely irrelevant character.
Yeah, he's just there. Like, he really, I don't think, needed to be in the movie at all. They could have just had it as like a struggling single mother. So yeah, I don't really get why he was in it.
But this scene does contain one of my top three favourite lines from the whole movie.
Now, I noted a line from this scene as well, and I have a feeling it may be the same one. Is it about an occupation?
No.
Oh, go on, you give me the line you've got then.
Triple H says to his ex-wife, he wants a second chance or something, and his wife says, "Ray, you don't understand." And Triple H responds with, "I understand."
What happened hurt her more deeply than you could ever understand.
I understand.
Which just
Is that
that's an actual line.
That writing is pretty much on par with the line I'd recorded, which was just the greatest exposition I've ever heard in terms of just laying out the most basic plot line ever. Triple H's ex-partner says, "I'm a nurse now. I struggled through school as a single mum without you." That is the most sort of hack trope backstory you could possibly give the character. Just laying out in one sentence these 7 years of pain, of separation, of the difficulties of trying to raise your child on your own. And she surmises it as, I'm a nurse now. I struggled through school as a single mum without you. Oh my god. Like, this is literally like if you just ripped this plot for this movie from like a bot, from like something online, some AI that just churned out the most generic storyline imaginable.
It feels like she got like the dialogue mixed up with the character description,
right,
and delivered the wrong one on that scene. And again, the director said, "Good enough. Let's move on to the next scene." It's like Shakespeare.
It really, it truly is. And if you think that was good storytelling, wait until this next little montage we get here, which is Triple H, now that he's out of prison, trying to find some honest work for himself. And we see him interviewing for jobs as a mechanic and a chef, both of which he completely fucks the interviews up just by basically being an obnoxious prick. Just by like making all these snide remarks about, oh, that's a hybrid car. Oh, is that even a real car? And like he's working at, like he's interviewing some vegetarian restaurant or something. He's like, oh, what do you mean? Why don't you want to eat meat? Why don't I cook you a steak or whatever? It's just ridiculous. And it's like the whole time I was just thinking, like, we've established one thing about your character, that you're a really good driver. Like, can you not get a job as like a takeaway driver, like a delivery guy, like a taxi driver, something like that? Why are you going for these jobs that are clearly like outside of your skill set?
Yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoy the scene. It's another one of, like what I said before, another one of what you may generously consider jokes.
Right.
Where Triple H walks into this vegetarian restaurant, and I assume he knows that it's vegetarian before he walks in. And the chef's going on about how, like, they grow their own fungus, and, like, they have, like, avocados and stuff, whatever. And then Triple H's like, "You don't do meat, do you?" And the vegetarian chef's like, That scene should end there. And it goes on for another 30 seconds of him going, "So, no steak? Like, he taps his own muscles and then taps the vegetarian chef's muscles. He goes, "You should eat a steak."
Yeah.
And the vegetarian chef's like, And he's like, it'll build you up. It's just a really uncomfortably long scene.
It's just terrible. It's just like, I know it's meant to be funny, but because it's not funny, you then just view it in the cold light of day for being so stupid. Because it's like, you're not trying to get your life together. You're not trying to get this job because you know that you're fucking the interview up the wall by being such a div. And then the next scene was even more baffling, right? Triple H's apartment randomly burns down. There's just a fire and Triple H's new home is destroyed. And I was like convinced that like this would come up later on, that like LaRue or someone had gone and committed this crime to really break Triple H down, destroy his apartment so he's got nothing left, so that then he'll turn back to a life of crime. But that's not what happens. It never gets revisited. It's just like a freak fire. Triple H's home just randomly burns down, so he's just at rock bottom.
Yeah, he laughs about it.
He does laugh about it, yeah.
And one of the firemen has a go at him for laughing at him.
Fire funny to you?
Not haha kind, but like ironic. Anything I had left in the world. In that apartment.
Man, it's rough.
Wasn't much.
What stupid. You are a cunt, Triple H. At this point, I did not want him to get his life together.
And also, I'm sure there were more people living in that apartment building than just Triple H.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I'm sure someone, even if no one's died, someone's lost like their entire livelihood, life savings in the fire. But no, Triple H, he doesn't have much, so just let it burn down. He's glad.
So anyway, all of this leads to Triple H then going to visit LaRue, who apparently by day is a bartender, to get some details about this bank job that LaRue was wanting to pull off. So Triple H already, through these misfortunes, I mean, granted your apartment randomly burning down is a shame. He really didn't try that hard to get an honest job, you know.
2 jobs.
Yeah.
2. But he wanted to be a mechanic and a chef. 2 jobs which are, at least you need a reasonable level of skill to do. It wasn't like he tried to be like a pot washer or a bin man or something. Like quite a monotonous, easier job. It was like you went for 2 quite highly skilled jobs, went, nah, they aren't working, let's go rob a bank. Exactly.
Like getting out of prison and going, oh, I'm going to interview to be a brain surgeon and an astronaut. And they're like, oh, you don't have the skill set for that. Oh, what's a man to do? I'll go back to my life of crime then, I suppose. It's like, no, you had other options, Triple H. So we move on to the day of the school trip. We get introduced to a few characters here. One of them is Stanley, who's a bold man who is just there to help with the chaperoning and has a bit of a thing for the teacher with the weird voice. And
you see, when I first saw that, I thought that was Marvin, because there were 2 sort of real weak, sort of pathetic, bald men in the movie. One's Marvin, one's Stanley, and they're sort of interchangeable.
They look very similar, and it also just gives you an idea of the sort of level of the comedy in this movie, where they're like, I know what's funny, just have a bold, fat man as a character who is awkward with women. Ha 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 ha. We'll put 2 of them in fact. It's like, no, it's just not good.
Double the men equals double the jokes.
Exactly. And then we get another just complete stereotype of a character, which is Nick, who's the driver for the bus for this trip. He's just like a real-life Otto from The Simpsons. Just a generic bus driver, stoner, spaced out. Like, whoa, dude, let me put these bags in the bus.
It had I think it had the only joke of the entire film that I laughed at, though. Where
you laughed at a joke in this film?
I laughed at a single joke in the film.
It's one more than me.
Which was when let's just call him Otto, because I can't bother to remember his real name.
Sure.
Otto is told, "Can you please put those bags on the bus?" And Otto turns to her and says, "Can't yet. I'm still visualizing the picture."
Picture hasn't formed yet.
Great.
It's not a good joke. It just made me laugh. I think I was just desperate to latch onto something that could possibly be funny.
Yeah, it's difficult to stress how painfully unfunny the movie was up until this point. So I guess by comparison, that was, it was all right. We then see Triple H. So for some reason, I don't know if this is a common thing. Do you usually do bank robberies in the morning? I know you need to do it whilst the bank's open, so you can't do it I guess you don't. I mean, it's a different thing, right? A bank robbery where you go hold them up with guns and then actually breaking into a closed down bank is probably much more difficult. But in any case, this is when they're getting on the bus for the school trip. So this is early hours of dawn. They've decided to go do this heist.
It was a curious choice of bank. The bank which is about 2 meters from your daughter's school.
Yes.
Interesting choice to agree to do that job, particularly. We've already established Triple H knows where his daughter's school is because he stalked her on the way there.
It's also strange because I don't know about you, I've never seen a bank anywhere near a school, really, in my own life, in any of the schools I've been to.
No, that's true. They'll go, this is Lafayette, America. They never really established where it is. I don't know if Lafayette's a big place, if it's a place Americans would know about.
I've heard of Lafayette because it's in Louisiana, because they go to New Orleans on the school trip. In any case, Triple H is in the car with these dickheads, right, LaRue and these two other guys. One of them's tapping the chair behind LaRue or something, and LaRue has a great line, which is,
Hey, if you keep tapping your hands like that, I'm gonna cut them off. I'm gonna cut off your hands.
but why? Why did he say it twice?
Just had to make sure it was fully clarified exactly what he was going to do to his hands.
For sure.
Don't any sort of misconceptions being propagated.
LaRue and his boys have got these masks for performing the heist.
Oh, God.
And these,
I know where you're going with this one.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So the masks are George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Condoleezza Rice are the three masks that they have. Any sort of remote humour you might have found in this from saying, oh, that's funny that they've picked those masks instead of just balaclavas or something, gets completely robbed from you because it gets drawn out so much. They go into the bank, they're holding up the bank teller, and the bank teller's finds it amusing that they've got a Condoleezza Rice mask, and there's a big drawn out scene where they're talking about it. She's like, oh, what, you didn't do it to be funny? And it was like, no, it's just a mask. And then later on, when the police come to the scene of the crime, it gets revisited again, and she's going on about, oh, to be honest, I wasn't even paying attention. I was so focused on this Condoleezza Rice mask. What the fuck is this? You got robbed at gunpoint. It's not funny. I don't give a shit what mask they were wearing.
I couldn't figure out what the joke was supposed to be. Did she fancy Condoleezza Rice? Was she a feminist and being like, I'm proud that they chose a woman's mask to be wearing? I don't think the writers knew what the joke was, but I certainly could not tell for the life of me what the joke was supposed to actually be.
The only small joke that you have there is, oh, we're wearing these latex sort of masks of famous politicians rather than balaclavas. But that's not the joke they're really going for, because what they're going for is the fact that one of them has a Condoleezza Rice mask is significantly funnier than the Bush and Cheney ones. The Bush and Cheney ones in the universe of this movie are just normal masks to wear whilst you're robbing a bank. But the Condoleezza Rice one, for some reason, is hilarious.
I've generally thought long and hard about this. I can't, for the life of me, try and figure out what the point of that joke is. I don't understand what is funny about that scene.
Yeah, it was a stinker. They go in to rob the bank. Triple H is in his car still. He has a flashback to teaching his daughter to drive. This was bizarre. It was Triple H before he went to prison, and he's got a goatee, and his daughter is very young. His daughter in this, I don't know how old we said she probably was. Even say she's 15 or 16 in this. She must have only been 8 in this flashback. But she looked younger than that. She looked much younger than that in the flashback. You can't teach a kid that age to drive. The kid sat on Triple H's lap, and she's got her hands on the wheel, and Triple H is steering. She's like, no, I want to do it. You don't do that with your kid of that age. And they were just on a normal street as well. It wasn't like they were out in the country in the middle of nowhere, just fooling around having a bit of fun in a car or something.
And again, they hold on the sort of knocking over the bin for 3 seconds after sort of. It's not a joke, but if there was a joke, you're holding on far too long on the joke to have it any sort of level of funny. And also, it's the only flashback in the whole film.
Yeah. It's not like it's a returning motif that like builds up his like previous relationship with his daughter. This is it, and then it comes back up later in the movie, and we'll get to that when it comes up. Oh my god, it pissed me off when it. Ugh. Anyway, Triple H has that flashback, and that is enough for him to decide that he's not going to be a criminal anymore, and he wants to be a good guy again. And he ditches his car, and he goes and he boards the bus. Even though he had not been there in time or properly signed up for being a chaperone, the teacher, Miss Miller, is just fine with him being there. Triple H's daughter, who seems absolutely traumatised, is livid and is like, please get off the bus. Like, actually fully wants him to leave, and Triple H just basically ignores her.
She's very explicit. It's not like a sort of in the back, out of Triple H's eye line, she sort of crosses her arms and goes, It's like, no, she walks up to him, stares him right in the eyes and said, I want you to leave this bus, please. You're making me uncomfortable being on this bus. And Triple H is like, kid, we're going to be father and son, father and daughter again.
If I get off this bus, I lose you forever.
Same goes if you stay. Let it go.
The bank robbers all run away. Two of them, so LaRue and one called Goldie, they sort of go one way. The third bank robber is sort of running from police who've arrived at the scene, and he drops the bag with all the money in it in with all of the kids' bags that get loaded up onto the bus.
Remember that, because the phrase, the money is on the bus, is going to come back in a big way later on in this film.
So LaRue and Goldie sort of go steal a woman's car and they make it away, right?
That's a great scene, by the way. They walk up to her and go, hey, you going to work? Yes, you're not going to work today. And then pull out guns on her and say, we're the police.
Yeah, and they commandeer her vehicle.
Police emergency. Commandeering. Except we're not the police.
And then they're trailing the bus that has Triple H on it, and they get into a car crash with a small like van that's carrying dirty diapers, right? And they hit into this van, and the van doors fly open, and dirty diapers fly out and go all over LaRue and Goldie in their car. And
yeah,
I really was baffled by this. I was like, I understand why they've put it in. It's like it's meant to be a really juvenile, funny joke of ha ha ha, dirty diapers, that's funny. What the fuck was this business that the van belonged to that was going around and collecting en masse dirty diapers specifically? Like, they can't be going from individual... It wasn't just litter, it was only dirty diapers. They weren't putting any bigger, like, black bags. It was individual dirty diapers with, like, shit stains on them that fly out of the van and go all over the car. Where have they come... Like, they come from, like, a hospital or something? Like, what is this? Why weren't they, like, packed up properly?
Louisiana, it's in the deep south. It gets very hot and very humid there.
Yeah.
So... Who wants this job? Who wants to be driving a van of dirty diapers? How do you make money from it? Who is buying them?
So we move on. We go onto the bus where Triple H is with all the kids on the trip. They're all throwing stuff around on the bus, just misbehaving like kids do. Triple H uses this as an opportunity, now that the bus is in motion and his daughter cannot get away from him, to traumatise her some more. So walks back over to her and delivers this little monologue and goes, I was hoping you could give me a chance to show you the real me. And she completely ignores him, which is what he fucking deserves.
Justifiable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm fully on team Triple H's daughter.
Yeah, I was for most of the movie. I soured on her later on, but we'll get to that. One of the kids on the bus shoots a spitball at Triple H, who then makes the driver stop the bus. So apparently, as one of the chaperones, he has the authority to just completely derail the field trip whenever he wants. Triple H goes up to this kid, confiscates his straw, and the kid is quoting Art of War, which comes up a few times in the movie as well. I don't have this kid's name, he's just some kid with curly hair.
I wrote him down as Ginger Kid.
He's a bit of a misbehaviour, he's somehow coordinated on this field trip this kid has, that when he gets to their destination in New Orleans, that he's going to meet with someone in New Orleans to illegally buy fireworks. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, what kid going on a field trip thinks this is an opportunity for me to get some fireworks in? Like, what? Like, can you not get those where you're regularly at home? How do you have a contact in New Orleans who's supplying you with these fireworks when you're underage? It was so strange.
Then Triple H sort of starts doling out some prison yard justice, and has this whole big monologue which ends on "I am the chaperone."
I'm Mr. Bradstone. I'm the chaperone.
Again, feels like one of their jokes. It would be like, ha ha ha. Big burly Triple H is saying he's chaperoning a kids trip. It's like, well, why couldn't a man chaperone a kids trip? That's allowed.
We get the reaction from the kids. So at first they're all scared into silence by Triple H, but then they start talking about him. The ginger kid is impressed that Triple H was aware of, Art of War by Sun Tzu or whatever his name is. And then there's a cheerleader girl on the bus, and she's talking to her friend about how Triple H is hot.
He's hot. Old hot. Still. Scary.
This is weird. This is very strange, having underage girls on this trip talking about how convict Triple H is a fine piece.
No, yeah, I've got nothing else to add. That's just a bizarre scene.
The other chaperone starts moaning to Triple H about how he wants to bang the teacher, Miss Miller. Again, it's meant to be funny. It's not. Triple H gives him some advice for, like, talking to women, which is, like, generic, awful shit.
Well, no, his advice on talking to women is let them talk.
His advice on talking to women is let them talk, and then after they're done talking, pause for a few moments and take a breath so it seems like you were listening, even if you weren't. It was just like, okay, you're a real charmer. Triple H then goes over to his daughter again. So he just won't give up. He's being such an annoying prick. Just bothering his daughter.
The thing I can only think of is if you were on a school trip and your parents on a school trip and were 3 times in the school trip, they walked over and sort of crouched down in the middle of the aisle and started talking to you. That'd be the most embarrassing.
You would be
thing ever.
mortified. Even if it wasn't like your parent who just got out of prison, who hadn't been in your life for years and you didn't want anything to do with. Even if it's just your parent, like normally, you would still not want that to happen. Like, it's embarrassing.
Oh yeah, you'd be like, Dad, fuck right off.
But the reason they do this is then because they have Josh, who's like the hot kid that Triple H's daughter's into, then comes up to Triple H and thanks him for making everyone quiet down so that he could read his book. What a fucking kiss ass. Like, how's he the popular kid?
Yeah, I never understood why Josh is considered like a catch. Like, he doesn't really seem to speak to any other kid in the entire school. He doesn't seem to, like, interact with anyone, or he just seems to want to read his book and, like, listen to his, like, music. And just doesn't... But, like, all the girls love him, and all the boys want to be him.
We then have a couple of short sort of cutaway scenes just to move the plot along. So the police track that the prints for the car that had been used for the robbery, the fingerprints belonged to Triple H. And they interrogate one of the robbers, and they establish from him that basically Triple H is on the school bus, and that's where, you know, they've made their getaway from, and that's where the money could be, I guess.
But in this scene, one of the prison guards says, yes, his prints might be on the keys, but I don't think he's done it. Because when I arrested him, he promised me he wouldn't do a crime again.
Yeah, it's like, well, he fucking lied, didn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't even make sense within the realm of the universe, because the story they were trying to tell earlier was that Triple H reformed himself over the time he spent in prison and became a better person. But apparently we're led to believe that as soon as he got arrested, he made a sincere enough plea to a police officer that he would never commit a crime again, that has stuck with the police officer, and he's remembered that for 7 years. Doesn't make any sense.
Also, no wonder he got 7 years in jail. As soon as they arrested him, he seems to have confessed everything and gone... Because to state, I promised not to do it again, implies you've already told them what you've done in the first place.
We get LaRue calling the school to find out where the field trip is headed. He pretends that his niece is on the trip and that she's diabetic. There's a really weird moment here where LaRue's other crony that's there, called Goldie, like, he then verbalises what was already, like, really obvious. He's like, hold on, Triple H is on that bus, and we saw our other guy from the robbery run over to the bus with the bag full of money. Do you think that the money could be on the bus with Triple H? Yes, obviously. Like, I assumed that's why you were following them and trying to work out where they are. If that's only just dawned on you, what the fuck were you doing, like, stalking this field trip if you didn't think the money was there?
I feel like it just had... The sort of person who's going to go see the chaperone starring Triple H probably does need the plot spelt out in quite considerable detail. So I don't resent it too much. I feel like you've got to give the movie credit. It's got to cater for its audience,
I suppose.
Which I believe in the last 3 years has been us too.
Yeah, probably. But we then get what I described as the first almost funny moment of the movie. I still didn't laugh at it, but it's where they get out of the bus and they're at the museum, and Triple H is essentially delivering some more of his sort of strict chaperone parenting or whatever, being like, look, you're all going to behave on this trip, you're all going to be quiet and follow the tour guide, and if you don't, you'll lose your meal rations and your visitor privileges. And then it's like, oh, that was a Freudian slip. I've just talked about, what would happen if we were in prison instead of on a field trip. Oh, I mean, instead you'll get a detention if you misbehave. Fuck me.
Yeah, that was their big joke. So how dense of a person do you have to be to say that?
Yeah, to accidentally slip into that.
At what point in prison are you disciplining other prisoners if they're not going to get their meal rations?
For real. I guess it's like he wouldn't have disciplined other prisoners that way, but that's something he learnt from prison guards. But that's also like sort of embarrassing for him that his whole tough guy persona is just him imitating prison guards that like made them basically their bitch whilst he was inside for 7 years. We get inside the museum, and this is actually a callback to something in the first scene. Triple H, when he was leaving the prison, was showing off some of the books that he'd read whilst he was in there, and one of them was about dinosaurs. And this field trip has now gone to a museum where they're going through a dinosaur section, and the tour guide for the museum is sick. Apparently, the museum did not bother to communicate this to the school who were having the field trip there, literally up until they arrived. And then they're like, oh, sorry, your tour guide's sick. No one can tour you around the museum. But
and it's not like this is before cell phones, because cell phones play quite a heavy point in the...
Yeah, it's been 2011, like, they have the technology to fucking phone a school and be like, oh, sorry, our tour guide's sick. But instead they don't. But luckily, Triple H, the chaperone, has an extensive knowledge of dinosaurs from books
One
he read.
might call it an encyclopedic knowledge of dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he is just spitting... the facts he says feel so detailed, it's almost like they've been ripped straight from a Wikipedia article on a specific dinosaur and just been given to Triple H to read out in a scene.
Would not surprise me. There's a very just torturous scene where Triple H is talking about oviraptors, which are dinosaurs that steal eggs, and he's like asking questions to the kids, and his daughter's responding, and these dinosaurs that steal eggs are used as like a metaphor for their strained relationship, for like, oh, the dinosaur was just trying to protect its dinosaur family by stealing those eggs. Oh, the dinosaur should have gone to dinosaur prison. It's like, what is this, bruv?
And unless you're utterly dense between the meal rations and visiting times, and it's now really obvious conversation about going to Raptor jail, it's pretty clear that Triple H is a convict.
Yeah. At this point, we should make it perfectly clear. It's only Triple H's daughter who knows that he's been in prison. Everyone else in the field trip is completely unaware of that.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be. Not at this point. Not at this lengths have gone to make these very strained, torturous points on how he's a criminal.
You also should just full stop probably find out whether one of your chaperones for the field trip is an ex-convict before you allow him to be around the children all day, right? Like, that seems like a pretty basic sort of administrative thing for the school to do that they didn't bother with.
Yeah, I don't know what they do in America, or at least in Britain. You've got to do a DBS check, like a criminal records check, before you can do anything, even approaching sort of helping out schools. And the school's like, he looks trustworthy.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he does have a great knowledge of dinosaurs, and he has some great banter with the kids about that. And for some reason, that Josh kid is really impressed by this, and he starts sort of hitting on Triple H's daughter and basically being like, wow, your dad's so cool with all of his dinosaur facts. No, he's not.
The heart wants what the heart wants, John. Josh's heart wants dinosaur facts.
We then get a really confusing development. So Triple H spots Goldie and LaRue, who have tracked him on the bus to the museum, right, to get their money back. And Triple H knows that he has to confront them. And he abruptly cuts the tour short and goes, everyone get back on the bus now. And the teachers are like, no, we've still got another hour and a half left on this tour. And he's like, no, you do what I say. You go get back on that bus. And then Triple H goes, I've got to go take a leak. He runs off and he goes and pulls a fire alarm as a way of getting everyone out of the museum. So my question is, when Triple H saw Goldie and LaRue, why didn't he just say, I need to go take a piss, and then do the fire alarm and then get everyone out so that they would not be suspicious of Triple H? Because if you do that, it just makes it seem like the fire alarm's gone off. But if you shout to everyone, get back on the bus now, then you run off, then the fire alarm goes off, it makes it so fucking obvious that you've pulled the fire alarm. No one picks up on it, like, apart from Triple H's daughter, like, everyone, like, is just like, oh, I guess there was a fire in the museum. But it was so badly written, it was like, why couldn't you just do the evacuation?
But I generally think everyone on this bus is a complete idiot.
Yeah, agreed. Including, I mean, but the adults are stupider than the children in this movie. That's the interesting thing. Like, it's like a kids' movie in that sense, where the kids are like five-head geniuses and the adults are all like bumbling idiots, because like none of the adults are competent in any way, apart from Triple H a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and the taxi driver. We'll get on to him later.
So Triple H goes to the bathroom. There's a kid there who's taking a shit or something and singing in the cubicle, and his dad stood outside. And Triple H pushes the man into the cubicle with his kid. I guess so that they wouldn't see Triple H getting into the fight, but it was very odd. Like, he opened the cubicle door on a kid taking a shit, Triple H did.
And the man never chooses to leave the cubicle.
No.
This big burly man pushes you into a cubicle and you go, well, I guess that's it then.
That's me. I'm in here now. Goldie and LaRue then follow Triple H into the bathroom, and Triple H beats the shit out of both of them, really. And the only real development here is Goldie and LaRue tip Triple H off to the fact that the money is on the bus. Because prior to now, Triple H didn't know that, because he was sat on the bus when it happened. Triple H then bails out of the museum, drives the bus away, completely ditching the driver, the Otto from The Simpsons do, just leaves him in the museum. And whilst Triple H is driving away, he deliberately looks over his shoulder, sees where his daughter is, and swerves the bus in such a manner that his daughter falls onto Josh's lap, and then smirks to himself huh, that was good of me. Are you seem like you're really into the thought of this guy nailing your daughter, Triple H. It's a bit weird.
Well, you've got to have some way, because we've been about an hour into the film, and they keep saying he's a good driver, but all he's ever done is sat behind stationary vehicles or let his daughter drive for him. So I guess at some point you've got to establish he's at least semi-competent as a driver.
Yes, and the way they do that is by showing I can jerk the bus in such a fashion that my daughter is going to fall into a boy's lap. And that's what I want to do with my young child daughter. So next up on the field trip is a tour of the French Quarter. And Triple H lets the kids and the teachers go on this tour, ditches them. He retrieves the bag of money from the bus. It was at this point where I thought there was going to be some sort of swerve where he picked up the wrong bag, because you knew that was going to happen at some point, and spoiler alert, it does later on. I was expecting it now, but he actually successfully got the bag of money, and he calls LaRue, and they agree that they're going to just meet up because LaRue and Goldie are right there, they've tailed the bus. He's just going to go drop the money off to them and end this whole thing, when unfortunately some undercover police officers pull up and they spot LaRue and Goldie, and that scuppers everything. And LaRue and Goldie interpret this as Triple H trying to set them up, working with the police, which doesn't really make any sense when you think about it. No,
it also doesn't make any sense for the following scenes where they accuse him of having a triple cross and a quadruple cross later on.
Right. And also just in the fact, if Triple H was working with the police to try to snare LaRue and Goldie, why would Triple H take the big bag of cash with him on a field trip? That doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Why would he not just hand it back over to the police and give them the details of oh yeah, it was LaRue and Goldie who did this. They'll be the ones you want to arrest then. So LaRue and Goldie are both dipshits for this.
But is that not part of the joke where LaRue keeps insisting he's cleverer than Triple H and he's clearly a fucking idiot?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's difficult in this to sort of distinguish between what's actual just incompetent writing and what's supposed to be funny but just doesn't land, because there's a hearty portion of each in the Chaperone.
The chase scene between LaRue and Goldie and the police officers.
Yes.
It's must be 2-3 seconds long.
Yeah, and the way LaRue, it's sort of almost, I don't know, it's like something out of a cartoon, LaRue and Goldie go down an alleyway or a street or something and get some costumes and like put them up, and like the police run past them like something in Scooby-Doo or something. It was
tragic.
We go back to the field trip, and this actually, again, I don't think I laughed, but this is probably the most amused I was by anything in this movie. We're back at the field trip, and Sally, Triple H's daughter, is just stood there by the seat with her earphones in, singing to herself, like listening to music and singing along, like knowing that she's surrounded by her classmates. I guess she doesn't have any friends, and just stood on her own, just like singing along to the music she's listening to. What the fuck? That's so weird. No one does that.
And no scene preceding or after this scene establishes that Sally, Triple H's daughter, speaks to a single one of her classmates. Like, genuinely think through the film, apart from the bit at the end where they have the little Home Alone scene. You'd think there's not a single scene where she speaks to a classmate.
No, there's not. No, it's apart from Josh, apart from like Josh hitting on her and her being like, "Oh, I really want to fuck this kid." She doesn't have any other friends. Like, it's very, very sad. But Josh is there and recognises the song that Sally is singing, which is Kellen Smith.
Kellen Smith, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like, nobody here even knows who he is.
Not a real artist, I did check. They've made him up for the movie.
It doesn't exist.
No, he's not real, no.
That's gutting.
I know, it's a shame. And then...
Because he speaks for outsiders.
He speaks for... I read that as well.
It's like he writes for, I don't know,
Outsiders.
Exactly, people with brains, not these clones or wannabes.
For what it's worth, I mean, there's only a little snippet. We don't even hear the supposed Kellen Smith music. You just hear Triple H's daughter singing it. Sounds like generic pop. Sounds like nothing, The
more and more you hear Josh, the less and less he sounds like the popular kid on campus, and more he sounds like the sort of kid that would be arrested at 22 for like propagating far-right propaganda. He has no friends, kisses up to any authority figure, talks about not being like clones and sheep, and he does it his way. Yeah, quite a troubling character, this Josh.
Well, it's funny you say that, because not only Josh, but also the other kid who bought the fireworks and was all into the art of war, I did note at some point, seemed like a school shooter in the making. But for some reason, as we say, Josh is the popular kid, and the cheerleader girl comes up to him and tries to get the time of day, and Josh like pars her off and like gives her a drink. Like, she's like, "Josh, do you want to come have lunch with me?" And he's like, "No, but you can have this," and just gives her his drink that he's already drunk most of. Bizarre.
I'm not hungry.
Yeah, he's forgetting that food is not water.
Easily mixed up.
Easily done.
When you're a character that shallow, your brain might not recognise such things. And then there's a really unfunny scene where Sally's mother calls her to get an update on how the trip's going. And this doesn't further the plot at all, right? But Sally's mother calls her to see what's going on. And it cuts away to the mum and the stepdad who are at home. And the stepdad is trying to turn on a ceiling fan using a universal remote, and he accidentally turns on a stereo, and he makes the curtains go up and down, and it's all noisy on the call, and they can't hear each other properly. Completely pointless scene. Wasn't funny. Hated it.
I think the joke is just that Marvin's a doctor, and he like uses his brain for his job. He doesn't like lift weights and have big muscles, so therefore he's incompetent in everything he does. At least that's what a WWE movie, I imagine, would tell you.
Marvin gets such little screen time in this. Like, he's in like a bit after this. He's in like one other scene.
He's not established long enough to be funny. Like, he's not ever going to be funny because this writing's so bad. But like, if it was better written, you'd at least have a couple more scenes where it's like, or at least, yeah, we'll get into it later on when we'll talk about Marvin's final scene. But like, at least give him some character. But if you're going to sort of actually include him in a film, either just don't include him at all.
There's a Vince Russo-esque swerve at the end of his movie that really threw me through a loop.
There is.
But yeah, we'll get to that. So we established just quickly in a cutaway scene, LaRue and Goldie go meet up with some other criminals, and they enlist them to help with sort of taking out Triple H and recovering their money. So just to mention that quickly, nothing else notable about that.
Well, there's a great scene where, no, because clearly they've already agreed to meet these people. And their little gang hide out in a warehouse. That's like the little gang hideout. And LaRue and Goldie arrive at the gang hideout. Instead of knocking on the door or opening the door, just shoot the lock off the door. It's not like they're having to meet an enemy gang or something. They're meeting their good friends, I believe. Just shoot their door in.
Yeah, they're meeting other criminals that they're willing to associate with, so they obviously have some form of rapport. Don't know why he shot the lock off the door. Don't really understand anything about this. The bringing in these other criminals was, again, just padding out the movie, just to give Triple H some people to beat up, I think, was it? Like, that's literally the only role that these other joke men even serve. So, yeah, there are some other guys who are now linked up with LaRue and Goldie.
It's 1 hour 40 minutes long, the film, and they're really trying to stretch out for that 1 hour 40 minutes.
It felt longer. This like I felt like I was trapped watching this movie.
They really need to get that feature film length, and they're going to use every trick in the book to reach it.
So we cut back to the bus, and Triple H has now driven everyone to a hotel where they're going to stay for a few hours before going to a music festival later on. And we overhear some of the kids on the bus. There's the cheerleader kid who was hitting on Josh before, is going to go get lip fillers or something for some reason.
You're going to die when you see the new me. I can't believe you're still going through this. Angelina's lips won't have anything on me.
She was a kid as well. Like, I don't know how the fuck you can arrange to do that yourself as a child on a field trip, but whatever.
Also, the music festival they talk about. Don't go to it. No one even...
No.
There's not even a single shot of a music festival.
No. Well, that's the hilarious thing as well, is like, the music festival is one of the main events on the trip that they're supposed to be there for, and yet Triple H's daughter is completely down to completely blow it off and not go at all, and so are all of the other kids. Otto confronts Triple H about nicking his bus, and Triple H goes on a rant about time that is painfully unfunny.
We had plenty of time, bro.
Did we really? I mean, is there ever really enough time, Nick? I mean, honestly, what is time? Can't save it, can't spend it, right? And when it's gone, it's gone. Do you know what I mean? Does time really even exist, Nick? And if time doesn't exist, then there's just a moment. I had to seize that moment.
Triple H, at this point, I just realised, doesn't have the charisma to carry this. And I don't think it would have been a good movie even if you had someone else in Triple H's role, because overall the script was very poor, the premise was stupid, there were just a lot of inconsistencies, but they certainly could have had a better go of it if they'd got someone else in.
If you gave this to John Cena, it would be a thoroughly more watchable movie, just because he has that sort of dorky charisma, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you could, like, almost like he could do it almost tongue-in-cheek, like he knows how silly this whole is, so he's sort of laughing along with you. Well, I think Triple H has really taken this a lot more seriously than the movie deserves to be taken.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. And I believe, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I can't think of any other WWE Studios movies Triple H did after this. Like, I haven't heard of any of them.
It's because this one is infamously bad.
Yeah. I mean, even people who are much smaller names on a sort of, mainstream global level, like Randy Orton, like The Miz, they did multiple movies with WWE Studios.
Ted DiBiase.
Yeah. Triple H takes his bag with the money into the hotel, and he calls LaRue, who is now, mistrusting of him, and he arranges with LaRue that he's going to meet up with him in a couple of hours and drop the money off. And then Triple H's daughter turns up at his room. She's like warmed up to him now, just because really the hot kid at school now wants to bang her because the hot kid Josh is impressed with how cool Triple H is, and that's enough for the sort of 7 years of trauma and Triple H's awful, disgusting actions over the last couple of days. That all gets erased now, and she's like, oh, let's hang out. Triple H goes and talks to Josh next, which is great. He goes and finds Josh because he knows so little about his own daughter. He needs help from a high schooler about getting some information about his daughter to, like, impress her. So he's not going to try to forge a genuine connection or anything, or ask questions and learn about her. He goes to this kid and is like, what are my daughter's interests? Please, I want to impress my daughter so badly.
There's a really creepy, if you sort of peel back the layers, a really creepy idea that he doesn't want to know his actual daughter. He just wants a relationship with the concept of having a daughter.
Yeah. Like, it's part of his whole, like, plan that he's built in his head with Dr. Marjorie of getting his life back together is like, I'm going to rebuild my ties with my family. No matter whether that involves actually getting to know them or getting insider dirt from another high school student. We see Miss Miller and Stanley having a really awkward conversation about a croissant again.
That's the worst. That's one of the worst scenes in the film.
Yeah. Two of the most hated characters in the movie.
You know what I think is interesting? That we both ate the same part of the croissant. Don't you think that's interesting?
Yes, I usually like jelly with my croissant.
Luckily, Triple H interrupts it, and he's basically getting permission from Miss Miller to have some one-on-one time with his daughter and for her to not go to the music festival. And it's like, you suck as a fucking teacher and a guardian for these kids, Miss Miller, for just flat out giving permission. Oh yeah, you know, this field trip we're on that your daughter's come to, that you're meant to be chaperoning, so when we presumably go to this music festival, even though they don't end up going, you're supposed to be there to herd the kids around and make sure everything runs smoothly. But you can just fuck off and have a day out in New Orleans, and so can your daughter. Terrible organisational skills from this bitch.
There's a running joke in two scenes where sort of Marvin V2, the sort of teacher Stanley, that's his name, thank you. So the teacher asks Stanley, "Oh, do you think we're going to get fired?" And he's like, "No, you're not going to get fired." And the second time, she's like, he walks up and goes, "Nope, you are going to get fired." And it's never mentioned after that she doesn't get fired. So I assume, by implication, she does actually get fired when she returns back to Lafayette from New Orleans.
She definitely, even if she can continue teaching, should not be in charge of field trips anymore. That's like the bare minimum. But yes, I would have her stricken off, bruv. Like, this is a mess. Triple H takes his daughter out, right? Tells her about how he met her mum or whatever. They go to a record store. This was great. Triple H like goes in, and I can't remember the band. I think it was like he goes like, "Hey, do you have any
Frank Sinatra, Led Zeppelin, or the made-up artists?"
Kellen Smith. Yeah. And his daughter's like, "You like Kellen Smith?" Who, like, Kellen Smith's target audience, because the daughter and the other high school kid are into him, it's clearly like pop music for high school kids. So it doesn't make any sense that Triple H would be into Kellen Smith. And Triple H even sort of admits, "I heard good things about Kellen Smith, but I never really even listened to him, but I just want to get a record by him."
The record shop owner seems to be very impressed that he likes Frank Sinatra and Led Zeppelin. I think he calls them the triumvirate.
Something like the idea of like the holy trio or something is the joke.
The holy trinity, that's it.
Eclectic taste. Sinatra, Zeppelin, Smith, trifecta. I tip my hat. Come this way.
Frank Sinatra, like a crooner from the 50s, Led Zeppelin, heavy metal from the 80s, and what? I can't remember. I keep forgetting his bloody name. Kellen Smith.
Kellen Smith, bruv. Kellen Smith. My favourite part about this, Triple H and his daughter go to a diner afterwards, and Triple H puts a song on by Frank Sinatra and like sings along to it, and his singing is god awful. Like, it's a very cringe scene, but like, it's clear that like it would have been better if he'd put on like a Kellen Smith song there to try to impress her. But Kellen Smith's not real. Like, they picked a fictional artist to do it for. So instead, they had to have the clumsily written record store scene in there before, and then the diner scene where he puts on some Frank Sinatra instead. Triple H's daughter confronts him and says that Triple H, when he was in prison, didn't write to his daughter for 5 years, which is so fucked up. And Triple H's justification for this is like, "I thought you'd be better off without me." Bro, that's your, like, at the time, like, your infant daughter, really. Like, your very young daughter who, like, needs some form of relationship with her father. Like, I thought at first in the movie it was just like his daughter was just pissed off that he wasn't there for the 7 years he was in prison. But for 5 of the 7 years, we're meant to believe Triple H went through all this transformation and growth as a person. He didn't contact his own daughter for 5 years whilst he was in prison. That's fucked up. I wouldn't forgive him.
He says something like, "I thought you didn't want anything to do with me." It's like, yeah, but you can at least write a letter.
Yeah.
Worst comes to worst, she's going to burn the letter.
Exactly.
And also she's sick, so obviously she's not going to know what to do with the letter. She's going to have it read to her.
We get some police officers approach Miss Miller and Stanley, and they tip them off to the fact that Triple H was involved in a bank robbery. And Triple H is then on TV, and his daughter goes back into the hotel and sees this, and it's Triple H's like mugshot there, and they're like, "This guy's robbed a bank. Police are out looking for him."
It's amazing though, from the day he went into jail to the day he left jail, didn't age a day.
Triple H's daughter gets pissed off and confronts him about the bank robbery. And apparently on the news, they gave away like the full details of the case, which I'm not aware of this being something that the news would do if there's an ongoing criminal investigation. But like Triple H's daughter confronts him and is like, how come your prints were on the keys for that getaway car? Like, why the fuck would the news include that detail?
So specific.
Yeah.
Giving away information on active cases occurring all over the country on the news.
Yeah. And like on the same day as well. It's not even like later on they're like, have you seen this man? We have reason to believe he was tied to this. It's the same day they're like, well, we dusted for prints and it was Triple H. Does anyone know where he is? It's like, you never see that on the news, bruv.
At most, it's been 8 to 10 hours after the robbery. And they're already giving away crucial information on the case on like New Orleans local news or whatever.
And then even more confusingly, Triple H somehow, like, I thought this was going to be a big moment of tension where Triple H's daughter, just as she was starting to warm up with him, now gets pissed off with him again and gets even more distant. But instead, Triple H is just like, no, really, I'm innocent. Please believe me. And his daughter goes completely on board with him and like loses all her reservations. And he's like, okay, yeah, what can I do to help? And Triple H sends his daughter to go into the hotel to go fucking retrieve the bag of money.
Need some time to figure out how to make this right. Please.
How are we supposed to get out of this?
Simple. Return the money, let them take the heat for it.
And suddenly, it's like he's getting his daughter involved in an active criminal investigation. Like, accessory to a crime is still a crime.
Yeah, exactly. Again, the emotional sort of scene with them was before this happened. After this happens, you're expecting it's going to blow up, and for some reason his daughter does a complete 180, and it was at this point where I started to fucking resent his daughter a bit as well. Because up until now, the storytelling with him and his daughter, although very generic, seemed sort of... The daughter was actually doing some decent acting, and it seemed sort of authentic. And at this point, it just got completely fucking goofy and stupid, I thought.
Yeah, it wasn't at all good storytelling, but it was like, this is sort of the bare minimum storytelling needs to be. Like, just say, the absolute bare minimum is, he's a bad guy, but he tries his best, and his daughter forgives him, but then they have a falling out, then he redeems himself, then it's happy ending. So they were doing that, but yeah, they just missed out the middle part, and it goes on, she hates him, she likes him, the end.
And then Triple H's daughter, this was so stupid as well, goes to get the bag of money that was in Triple H's room. And we knew it was in Triple H's room. And then has a chance encounter with the bus driver, just out of nowhere. Just runs into that Otto bloke and talks to him. And Otto puts the bag of money in the bus. And then she's like, actually, no, I want that, and takes it back. And makes it so fucking obvious that the bag has been switched. So it pops up later in the movie and it's meant to be like a swerve. But it's completely not. I would be very surprised if one person who watched this movie didn't know that the bags got switched in this scene.
Well, we can scientifically prove that, because I knew it had been switched, and you knew it had been switched. And that's the entire audience of The Chaperone for at least the last 6 years. So, factually, 100% of people knew the bag had been switched.
Very true. Goldie and LaRue abduct Triple H's daughter now, which is, a bit heavy. Like, I feel bad for her. Like, she's like, okay, I trust my dad, I'm going to help him out. Instantly held at gunpoint by two actual fucking criminals.
Yeah. Escalates quickly.
Triple H goes to this warehouse, and this is where Goldie and LaRue met the other criminals earlier on, right? And he's going there to drop off the money to them. And instead what's happened is, I think because Goldie and LaRue were like suspicious that Triple H wasn't actually going to give him the money, they enlisted the other criminals to beat up Triple H. And instead, obviously what happens is Triple H just beats the shit out of all of them. There was like 4 or 5 of them, and Triple H just easily dispatches them all.
4-on-1 handicap match.
Yeah, 4-on-1 handicap. They weren't even tagging in. Just crushes them all. They have a stereotypical hilarious Asian character who has like some fucking stick and goes wah round with it like he's going to battle Triple H with it. And then Triple H just picks up like a pipe and is like, you fucking want some, do you? And the Asian guy just runs off. So that was that.
Yeah. Just had to make sure it had a touch of racism in the movie.
LaRue then calls Triple H and they agree that they're going to exchange the money for Triple H's daughter.
Hello?
Ray.
It's just Ray, moron.
And Triple H enlists the help of a taxi driver to do this.
This is one of the weirdest scenes in the movie. For that, LaRue comes out with a great quip He says, "I don't trust you as far as I can spit you."
I didn't even catch that.
Listen, I don't trust you as far as I can spit you.
What does that mean?
It means nothing. That doesn't work. Are they trying to be like, oh, LaRue's stupid and that's why he said that and he got it wrong?
I think it's like, "I don't trust you as far as I can throw you." It's like it's cliche. It's cliche at this point. We'll make a fresh version of that. "I don't trust you as far as I can spit you."
Triple H pulls up and is like, hey, I need you to help me save my daughter's life. So she's going to get in this car and you need to just drive away straight away. Taxi driver, contact the fucking police. Okay?
Yeah.
It's apparent at this point that you're being brought into a criminal situation, like a hostage standoff, where this guy is using you to go drop him off. He's going to deliver the money. His daughter's going to get in the car. Ring fucking 911. But instead what happens is Triple H goes there, gets the money out. LaRue and Goldie put the kid in the car. Taxi driver drives away.
But just before that, Triple H turns to the taxi driver and says, "You're the only man I can trust."
My daughter's life is in your hands. All right? This is all the money I have in this world, and you're the only person I can trust.
You don't know this man. Imagine if you were a taxi driver. He said, "Oh, can you just drop me off here?" And then gave you some money and said, "I need you to pick up this child. You're the only man I can trust." What the fuck?
It's a good thing this was 2011 and you didn't have Uber about, because Triple H would be on a solid 1 star for this one. It's going to fuck his rating right up.
Oh, aye.
So the big swerve, shock, who could have seen this coming in? Triple H has the wrong bag. So he doesn't actually have the money, he just has some kid's possessions in it. And the Triple H's daughter realises this as they're driving away and is like, "No, you've got to turn around." And then the taxi driver's like, "No, I promised your dad." Again, like they were like old war buddies, like going back years and years. "I've sworn allegiance to Triple H. I'm not going to turn this car around."
Something's wrong. Stop the cab.
Your father said no.
Triple H's daughter, Sally, right, back at the hotel now. And she gets some help from Josh, the hot kid, the Art of War kid, with the fireworks and that, and some fucking nerd, right? They're all going to help her find her dad.
Everyone's just suddenly okay with tracking down 2 hardened criminals who've kidnapped another hardened criminal and are torturing him for money. And all these 4 kids are like, "Yep, let's just do it. No issue."
They were all somehow so impressed by Triple H earlier on that even though now it's on the news that he's a criminal, they're all like, "We'll get ourselves involved with this and help out. Why not?"
Well, criminals, but also that man knows his dinosaurs, so...
Exactly, he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of dinosaurs, so how could you not want to save him? This nerd kid pulls out his tablet, and it's like they're... At first they say something about an iPhone app that can track other iPhones down, and then this kid pulls out his tablet and they just like triangulate Triple H's exact location somehow. Like it's something out of a James Bond movie, some weird tech that only like police and like the military would have, and somehow in 2011 this random kid with a tablet has got it and they know where Triple H is.
Yeah, because Sally turns to this kid and goes, "Josh, you have that app that tracks any other iPhone?" Excuse me?
Yeah.
What? The app that tracks any other phone?
You've got an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
You have that app that tracks any iPhone?
Yeah.
I need your help.
Why are Apple paying for product placement in this movie? Or do you reckon Android paid them to purposely use Apple products in the film?
But that maybe is like a smear campaign. But that at least sort of almost makes sense, because you can have apps that are like Find My Phone, or you can have stuff like, Snapchat, where you can see other people's locations through like GPS. Obviously, you can't get an iPhone app in 2011 that will tell you the location of everyone else's iPhone, because that's a massive invasion of people's privacy. But it at least sort of is something. And then for some reason, they're just like, oh, instead of even doing that, instead this kid's tablet just has like software on it that is like, again, something that the military would use to pinpoint Triple H's exact location from his phone. So their grand plan here, right, is they get the Art of War kid to run off from the room they're in. He goes to the bathroom. He's got all of his like fireworks and shit with him, and he sets them off in the bathroom in this hotel, and they start going poof, poof, poof. And he goes out of there and he goes, "There's a shooter in there." And the police and the teacher's like, what the fuck? And they run over there and they're pop, 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 and they're like, oh, they're standing there with their guns. So fucked up. So fucked up. Like, not an okay thing to do. Like, you could have found another way of sneaking away that was not this fucking evil.
To trick the hotel managers and the other people at the hotel, there's a live shooter incident in the bathroom. People will be scarred for life just by hearing that.
It's just trying to give some sort of payoff to the fact that of this whole stupid plot about this kid going and getting his fireworks, but it's just unnecessary. Just like, you could have had one of the other kids, like, just have Josh go in there and just be like, oh, he's in there. Triple H, he's hiding in that bathroom, and they'd all run over there anyway. You don't need to tell them there's an active shooter in the bathroom. Like, that's very fucked up.
Although, if you were an active shooter, why would you go into a bathroom? Like...
True, I don't know. I mean, I'm beyond the logic of this movie. So this was also really confusing. So because of this diversion, Sally and all of the sort of lads who are helping her out with this mission, they run out of the hotel to go get on the bus. And the cheerleader girl goes with them. And I've got no idea why, because she wasn't friends with them.
She shouts, he's mine.
What, Josh or Triple H?
All she shouts is, he's mine.
He's mine, okay.
I think it's Josh. I think she's like, no, Sally, you ain't taking Josh to a hardened criminal hideout lair. He's mine.
Right.
And just goes chasing after Josh.
The important thing is, she runs and voluntarily gets on this bus with them, and then the moment they start driving the bus, she's like, oh, you've kidnapped me, I'm calling the police. It's like, you voluntarily put yourself in this situation. And also, the joke is supposed to be she got her lip filler thing, and her lips are all fucked up, and she just looks like really ugly and stupid. Which, again, is like, ha ha ha, like, this is like, I don't think it... I could have watched this movie at any age. I could have been fucking 8 watching this movie and I wouldn't have found that funny. It's just not funny.
What's the joke that an underage girl got dodgy plastic surgery and now she's fucked her face for life? Like, great.
Yeah, it's just like sad more than anything.
Yeah, that just makes me sad for this poor girl.
The maddest part of this scene, though, is they get on the bus and Sally starts driving it. And they're all like, wait, Sally, you don't know how to drive because you're a fucking child. You can't even drive a car. But apparently, using the skills that Sally learned from her driving lessons with Triple H 7 years ago, when she was like an actual toddler, basically, she's retained that knowledge and still to this day knows how to drive a bus. Fuck off.
Not even like a car, like a massive tour bus. Like,
Like, it would have made more sense to me if you had, like, sort of the cool kid Josh be like, oh, yeah, I drive cars sometimes, let me do it. Or, like, the Art of War kid being like, yeah, I'm a school shooter in the making, I've read some weird shit online about how to operate heavy vehicles for some sort of terror attack I'm planning, I'm going to do it. But instead it's Sally doing it, using her knowledge from the driving lessons with Triple H.
But you want to pay off the flashback, John. It's Chekhov's driving flashback.
True. What a well-crafted movie. I'm starting to have second thoughts about it. We move over to LaRue and Goldie and Triple H. They've got Triple H tied to a chair and they're beating him up, right?
This is the most PG torture scene of all time.
It is. And this is also one of the worst lines in the whole... I wrote this word for word, right? So
I think I have as well.
Yeah. So Triple H is trying to talk them out of what they're doing, basically. And he tells them an Einstein quote, which is about how anger dwells in the bosom of fools. And LaRue, his witty comeback to this is...
A bullet that dwells in the brain leaves much pain. LaRue.
First of all...
Isn't even true.
Which doesn't make sense. A bullet that dwells in the brain. When you shoot someone in the head, rarely, if ever, does the bullet just stop in their brain. Like, it goes straight through and shoots out the other side of their head. But forgiving that for a moment, for some reason LaRue felt the need to make his quote rhyme. I'm pretty sure the Einstein quote didn't rhyme. It wasn't like a limerick. It wasn't like a poem. It was just saying for Einstein, and then he was like, a bullet that dwells in the brain leaves much pain. Again, it's just the same joke they've done a million times where he says, ha 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 ha, LaRue isn't very smart. Listen to this dumb thing he said.
And I just can't get over, like, they keep punching Triple H, but, like, because it's a 12, you can't have, like, any scenes of torture in the film. So, like, Triple H doesn't seem to be phased in the slightest.
we then get another confusing, pointless scene where Sally's giving a pep talk to the kids about how they're going to go in there and rescue Triple H. The kids are already on your side. Like, they've just faked a shooting at the hotel with the police and ran out and stolen a vehicle and driven here. They're on board with helping you save Triple H. You don't need to win them over to your cause like any more than you already have. So that was pointless.
Yeah, she gives a pitch where she's like, now, I know my dad is a criminal and stuff, but he's a good man. Like, yeah, obviously.
Everyone already thinks that or they wouldn't be here. So the kids sneak in, right? They see that LaRue is pointing a gun at Triple H. And what they do is they set some fireworks off, because that's like the main play that they have in their bag, right? It's just to set off fireworks. And what happens is Goldie is chasing these kids down and pulls a gun on one of them, and then he slips on some beads. And I actually wrote here Home Alone style, and I think you referenced Home Alone earlier on as well. This was
the last 5 minutes of the film have big Home Alone sort of vibes. It's just like
100%.
They're throwing fireworks. They're throwing like 3 bead necklaces you have at like Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And that's enough for a grown man to somehow lose all ability to run.
But just, again, Home Alone, but like 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment here that confused me a little bit. So I think it's Ray, or Triple H, who calls Dr. Marjorie, right? Is it him?
Somehow.
Because he's tied to the chair, but he somehow manages to put a call through to Dr. Marjorie, who he has called, you know, numerous times throughout the movie to like discuss his situation, his life and whatever, okay? So for some reason he calls Dr. Marjorie. Again, I don't know why you wouldn't call the police, right? Because it's a very weird thing to do, because the whole point of doing this, I guess, is so that like there's going to be people listening into the call. But
I know, because I got the impression that it was completely accident. Well, I thought it was because the way it's shot, it seems to come across like a complete accident. Like he didn't mean to call her, and it's like a happy accident that like the criminals just confessed everything on Dr. Marjorie's show. But at the same time, it's like, why was he playing on his phone? Was he trying to call the police? It's bizarre.
I think it was at least good in a way that they brought Dr. Marjorie back in, because earlier on it was just sort of an unfunny bit. So I guess like the amount of time they dedicated to scenes of Triple H talking with Dr. Marjorie, I'm glad it at least sort of came up at the end. But the way they did it was very lazy.
Dr. Marjorie herself isn't funny. Like, there's nothing funny about her. She's just like a woman who answers talk radio questions. Like, she's not like a really eccentric woman, or like she's not like a love interest to Triple H. It's like she's a completely nothing character all the way through. Like everyone in this movie is.
Triple H hands the money over back to LaRue, right? And like LaRue admits on, you know, the call that Triple H had nothing to do with the robbery. He didn't do the robbery, which isn't true. Triple H was willing to be the getaway driver for the robbery.
Ray wasn't part of that robbery, was he?
No. That doesn't mean he didn't set the whole thing up to rip us off for sending him to prison.
Yeah, no, that's the thing always got me. The entire film's like, no, but he was fully intending to rob a bank.
Yeah, he was, 100%. Right up until the last minute where, just on a dime, he had a flashback about driving a car with his kid and changed his mind. Up until that point, he was fully down to rob the bank. So, bullshit. Like, he is still guilty, at least to some extent.
Accessory to a crime is still a crime.
Exactly. So LaRue's then about to shoot Triple H, and then the police come in and arrest LaRue, right? And Triple H almost gets arrested, right? People come in and are like, right, you've done a lot of bad things. We need to lock you up. But gets off scot-free. Doesn't even get taken to the police station for questioning, on the basis that on the radio they heard LaRue confessing that he was the one who was behind the bank robbery and not Triple H. That's not how the legal process works. That's not how criminal justice works. You can't go, oh, I heard this on the radio actually. We just heard that actually it wasn't Triple H. Oh, fine. Well, all of the many criminal acts Triple H has committed over the course of this movie are all instantly forgiven because someone listened in on a radio and heard LaRue saying, it was me, it wasn't Triple H. It's not legally binding.
Yeah, he has committed over, I'd say, 10 crimes. Plus all the bit about him kidnapping kids and going on a bus without like any permission and like all this bizarre stuff. Like, even if he wasn't robbing a bank, if he had just gone on the school trip, he still hasn't told the teacher in the school that he's an ex-criminal going on a school trip. So even that's like, if not against the law, at least like a caution from the police. Like, you can't be doing that. But No, it's because he stopped a single bank robber. All is forgiven.
It's really funny because Sally's mum turns up, and it seems like logic is factoring back into the movie for a split second, alright? Sally's mum turns up, slaps Triple H, and threatens to get him arrested for endangering all the children on the school trip. And Triple H is like, hey, you know, you can if you want, I don't even mind if you do. And then Sally confronts her mum and is like, don't you think he spent enough time in jail?
I could still have you arrested for endangering the lives of all these kids.
You could. I wouldn't blame you one bit.
Mom, don't you think he spent enough time in jail?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's come out and immediately started doing criminal shit again. He should go back to jail.
Line. That's the best line. It's like, yeah, you can commit more crimes, but if you've spent enough of your life in jail, you can't get more jail time.
He's already done 7 years. Come on. You don't want to put him in jail again, do you? And we get to the epilogue a short time later, this is. Triple H is with Sally, and he's doing up a tie, right? I thought at first he was going for like a job interview, but I don't think he is. I think he's going for a date, right?
Yeah, this is your Russo-esque twist.
He's trying to do up his tie, can't do it, just gives up. Fully grown man Triple H, one of the best getaway driver men in the world, can't tie a tie, throws it away, goes to the door. It's the mum there, Sally's mum, his like ex-partner is there. He's going on like a date with her, and she's like brought him flowers. What happened to the other cunt? Marvin. What happened to him? Like,
well, yeah, he's
just gone. That relationship's just apparently broken down out of nowhere.
6 years. Let's be generous. 5-6 years of like a loving relationship thrown out the window because Triple H is driven a bus with some kids and endangered his daughter's life multiple times.
And the last time we saw this woman, she was furious with Triple H. She was slapping him and threatening to get him arrested, and it was only the daughter intervening, which is why they didn't. And now she's going on a date with him, and it's just to try to like tie everything up. But again, this would make so much more sense if she'd still been single. But she was with Marvin, and she was like, "I'm happy with Martin. Our daughter likes and has accepted Marvin as a stepfather role." Like, but for some reason he's been kicked to the curb. Because he was a bit of a doofus with the universal remote trying to get the fan side. And then we saw him in one other scene after that, and it was just like, it was when the mum saw on the news about like Triple H being a criminal and like ran out of the house, and Marvin was like downstairs trying to do like a nice romantic dinner for the mum or something.
He was going to propose. He had a ring.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to propose. Well, right. Yeah.
He had a ring and a violin player and everything. He put a lot of effort into this. He seemed like a very caring and loving man who might be a bit of a failure using a universal remote.
He seemed like a bit of a cock earlier on being to Triple H about, I'm a doctor in that. But compared to the things Triple H did in this movie, he seemed like an upstanding gentleman. He's just in the bin apparently now. He's been ditched. So
doesn't matter what. Sally's already had the heartbreak of losing one father figure. That one father figure comes back and just instantly removes her other father figure. What do you reckon's going on in her head? What do you reckon she's going to be when she's 35?
She's still young.
Old?
She's going to have to process this trauma at some point, okay? And it's going to be ugly when it happens.
That's for the chaperone too.
Oh God, I fucking hope not. We get to the final scene, finally, and Triple H has got a new job now, working for Dr. Marjorie on the phones, right? And LaRue calls in, mirroring the first scene where Triple H called him from prison. Now LaRue has called him from prison. And there's a bunch of men behind LaRue looking all intimidating. LaRue looks scared, right?
There's one guy like kissing the air behind his neck and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Quite strange.
And my initial vibe when I saw this was like, okay, this is going to show that, like, you know, Triple H is growing as a person, and despite all of the horrible things LaRue did to Triple H is going to move on, try to help him to rebuild his life in the same way that Triple H has now managed to. And LaRue's saying, "Oh no, I'm in prison. I'm having difficulty adjusting to this new environment." And there's a mantra that got mentioned earlier in the movie that belongs to Dr. Marjorie, which is confront it, be truthful, let it go. Right? That's apparently like the sort of 3 steps for moving on from bad shit. And Triple H says over the phone to LaRue,
confront it, be truthful, and sleep with your back against the wall.
And the implication being that LaRue, I guess, is going to get bummed in prison, right? That he's going to get...
Well, I couldn't figure out whether he was going to get, like, stabbed in the back.
No, I think it was a sex thing, because you had the guy doing the kisses behind him, and also specifically sleep with your back against the wall implies, like, so no one can access your ass. You know, he didn't say, like, sleep with one eye open. He said, sleep with your back against the wall. So of all of the ways they could have ended this god-awful movie, they did it with a prison rape joke.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
No, yeah, that stood out to me, like, because there's no other joke in the entire film which even gets near that level of dark.
No.
Like, it's such a bizarre way to end the film. Every other joke's like shit, but it's like, ooh, I got diapers on my car. Oh no.
Yeah.
You're gonna get raped in prison. That's how you wanna end this movie.
There were like dark moments earlier on, but they weren't meant to be funny. And like the jokes were all really dumb slapstick, like, oh, diapers on a car. Oh, this bus driver's a stoner with a toy dinosaur. Oh, this girl got her lips messed up from Botox. Those were the calibre of the jokes. Yeah. And then it ended with Triple H, who's already got everything. He's already won. He's got his fucking woman back. He's got a relationship with his kid again. He's got a job with Dr. Marjorie. And instead of showing the tiniest little bit of humility to this poor bastard LaRue who's now in prison, he's like, you'll probably get raped. Like, fucking hell, man. What a stinky ending for it. That was the Condemned.
No, it wasn't, John. That was the Chaperone.
Oh, fuck, whoops. Freudian slip. We may or may not have done a sort of episode 0 on the Condemned.
No, honestly, that last joke, I wasn't giving this film much credit, but I was like, for most part, I've just been bored of this film.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming up. That last joke really sank it down a couple of points in my estimation. Like, genuinely, I was like, that's so much more. Like, that's just a horrible tonal shift to end the film.
Yeah.
It really sort of dragged the film down a couple of marks in my estimation, at least. But
I would agree. I think they were trying to do something a bit goofier, a bit funnier, a bit sort of like light-hearted, and like, oh, you know, get some kids involved in this WWE Studios, branch out, more sort of family appeal maybe than the sort of generic action movies, 12 rounds, the Condemned stuff that they were doing before. Did not work, was not funny, writing was terrible. No one put in a memorable, good performance. Triple H did not have the acting chops nor the charisma to carry this. And it just stank. And it was a bad movie. And I would say out of 10, that's like maybe a 1 or a 2 for me. I really can't even pinpoint one moment in that movie that I enjoyed.
I would give it probably 2 out of 10. Just because I feel like it, at least as a movie, it was all edited. Most of the shots were in focus. There was music. There was actual dialogue. So like you've done the bare minimum to make like a 1. It wasn't bad enough that like I didn't get to the end. So I feel like as long as I got to the end, you've got a point. As long as you manage to make a movie competently, that's a point. I've got no other points to give, so it's a 2 out of 10.
I think 2 out of 10 is fair because, yeah, as you say, the production was like sort of passable enough that like it was like, you know, it was a watchable movie. It was not like, I didn't think like, oh my god, I just want to turn this off and like be like, yo, let's just ditch this and do another movie review instead. Like, I was willing to sit through it, but the acting was shit and the plot was terrible and it wasn't funny. So I hated it, and in a way I think that's a good thing because we've set a low bar going forward. What we're going to be doing on this show is as we go through the annals of WWE Studios and other bad wrestling movies, we're going to be not looking for the best one. We're not looking for good movies. We're looking for bad movies, and it's only fitting that we present the worst movie with this championship belt. I've got the spinner belt here, the old classic John Cena one. I've turned that W upside down because this was not a win. This was an L, and this has to be awarded to the Chaperone.
The inaugural, much like the World Heavyweight Championship was.
Right. Right, exactly.
The
Well,
inaugural winner.
and that was given to Triple H as well, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Eric Bischoff handed that straight to Triple H, and I'm going to do the same thing, you know, symbolically now. This movie was a fucking dud. This stank. Do not watch it. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to encounter plenty of WWE Studios movies that are like so bad that they're good. You know, ones that you can at least get some sort of comic enjoyment out of, or just being like, that was just a dumb action flick, but there was, you know, it was okay. This was not one of them.
Thank you, Triple H. I'm glad you didn't make many other movies.
This big fucking stupid face on the DVD as well. His big twat face.
It's
His clean shaven Triple H looks like such a dick. I want to burn this.
Look at that. Look at that mug.
What a cunt. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us for the first ever episode of Never Drew a Dime. Who knows what we'll review next? It can only get better from here. But I've been John Dilworth.
I've been Tomo Clarkson.
And we'll catch you next time. Thank you very much.